Hello and welcome to the Stateside Soccer Show, episode 108, our 2022 MLS Season Prediction Show. My name is Jordan Weekend, and with me today is Logan Stump.
Hi, Jordan Weekend. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I actually just hurt something in my back when I got home. I don't know what I did. I think I was bringing in the trash.
I don't mean to laugh at you.
It's all downhill. Before we get started, I do want to, I know we joke around a lot on the show, but I do want to get just a little serious here about the Ukraine situation. So I do just want to say our condolences to anybody who is affected. I know people, in the U.S. here might have family over in the Ukraine or Russia who are going through some tough times. So if you want to donate, I found a website through USA Today, UnitedHelpUkraine.org. You can donate there or through the Red Cross. But, I don't think it's political to say that nobody here really wants war. So hopefully everybody's able to stay safe and all that stuff. And we're going to try to forget about all of our troubles tonight and have some fun with this, but don't want to lose sight on where we stand in the current situation either. So now that we took that moment, yes, I'm getting old. I hurt myself bringing in a trash can, I guess, today. So we'll see how it goes from there. We forgot to preview RSL, I guess. So we patted ourselves on the back last episode and said, great job. We previewed all the teams again, but we did not. So we'll talk about RSL when we get to their spot on the preview, when we talk about where we have them in the West. But how are you today, Logan?
All considering, I'm good. Yeah, like I think what you said, not just shine light back on it, but a terrible situation in a world that seems to need a lot more healing than what I think we're all capable of sometimes. But other than that, I every day that I get to wake up and I get to talk to you about soccer and kind of preview that with all the serious stuff going on in the world. Soccer seems like a pretty small thing on a really big scale. So, I'm good though. Like I think, getting to talk about soccer is going to get me over just kind of the rough day that I had. It was just constant listening to different things and trying to teach while all this stuff is going on and having the kids ask about it. It's a tough situation, but I'm good. I'm good now. I think, getting to talk about soccer, kind of forgetting, some of the troubles, but I know right when this is done, you kind of go right back into that vacuum. And we all know that this is kind of one of those games and things that really gets our mind off things, lets us have fun and honestly get to enjoy things that everybody else in the world gets to enjoy and makes us all happy. So I'm glad we get to do this tonight. So that way I can get my mind off it for an hour and whatever it is.
Yeah, especially in a sport that's so global where we probably have players from there and, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of great scenes today in the Europa League with Ukrainian players scoring and protesting and all that kind of stuff. So, but we're going to move on here and talk some prediction show. I think we're going to start with the East. Does that sound good?
Sounds good. Yeah.
So we're going to go with the Eastern. So we're going to be flipping for people watching live or on the YouTube afterwards. We're going to be flipping back and forth between the pictures that we have up here and ourselves. So if you don't see us for a little bit, I guess that's probably good. Probably sick of seeing us anyway. So, so we're going to do this. But then what we're going to probably do is talk about what place we have a team and then jump back like this again. And then, kind of go back in and out. So do we want to start from the bottom up?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's start bottom up.
Okay, I don't think people are going to be very shocked when we say that we have both of us are going to have in 14th place in the East, Charlotte FC. Now, they did just make a trade today that's going to give them they made a trade with Nashville today that is going to bring over Daniel Rios from Nashville for $350K GAM plus $150K GAM incentives. So he had 5 goals and 1 assist in 30 appearances with Nashville. He was the first one they actually ever signed to an MLS contract. But Charlotte needed attack, and that was something we kind of highlighted in the Charlotte preview, was that they're going to need attack. And they make this move on the eve, pretty much of close to the eve of the MLS season beginning. So, do you think this is enough to kind of help their attack, or where we are seeing Charlotte? Does this make you, because we locked in our things in enough time for you to make these graphics? Any regrets now with Charlotte being 14th?
I don't think so. I think this team, there's a lot of things that they're lacking. I think one, it's going to be MLS experience. Just like we talked about, you really want to have a team that's got MLS experience, and we've seen, these expansion clubs that come in that think that signing some of these foreign players, some DPs that played in international leagues that really performed well. I think you kind of get stuck up in the limelight of like, this is going to be a good season because we signed this really successful Polish striker or whoever it might be. As far as the instance is concerned. But I think that with this signing, I'm not really sure, just because I don't think he had much success with Nashville anyway. And I think, that kind of goes to just the way that he plays. I don't know if that's really going to help a team that is truly going to struggle this year. I think defensively, it's going to be very difficult for this team to kind of figure out how that works with the back line. I know you have Antoine Walker, you have Christian Fuchs, Jalen Lindsey, guys that have been around, that have played. But I mean, these are all guys that Anton Walks comes from, some time split at Atlanta United. Can he figure out how to play with Cincinnati, and can he play with a corner, or, a center back pairing and like Carujo? So I don't know. It's a tough sell for me to think that one player in the attack is going to change this team dramatically, just because I don't really think they've got the depth they need to perform well in their first year. I worry about maybe the team that's been put together, just because, that's always a concern when an expansion team enters the league, just because, we've seen what a team like FC Cincinnati does. But, it'll be cool to see another team, a team that I think is going to have, 75,000 fans on hand in their inaugural home match, Jordan. So, no, I don't think this changes anything, and nor do I think that Charlotte is really going to make any kind of progress up the East unless something spectacular happens with one of these players.
While we're talking about Charlotte, let's not forget we have this great merch here of what their manager pretty much said. We are screwed. This is We Are Fooked, which we'll be doing a magnet giveaway here as well today. So not sure how we'll do it during the live show. It'll probably be something like after the live show, we'll put out a tweet that you have to like or retweet or something that can get you one of those magnets if anybody actually wants one of those. If not, I have too many of them now. But I don't think the Rios signing or trade makes a big difference either. This is, somebody that only had like 5 goals with Nashville, who had a pretty lethal attack, actually, I feel like. So I can see why they're like, okay, he's expendable, right? So he's gonna have some work to do with Charlotte, and I guess we'll see, if he slots in early, like right in, or if he's gonna still be like a bench player that's gonna have to work his way in. I'm not really sure how this is gonna work for him, but I don't know. I don't see much of a difference in that, and I still have them locked in squarely in 14th. So let's move over to who we have in 13th position right now, which is FC Cincinnati. Both of us pretty lock in step here in the first few picks. Cincinnati, for me, I like what Cincinnati has done. I have, but when I look at what the rest of the East is like right now, I don't know if they've done enough to really move much. And I think really going up a place is probably good enough at this point. If you cannot be 4 years in a row for a wooden spoon, I think Cincinnati fans would take that. And if you're watching or you watched afterwards, you can reach out to us, let us know if that's incorrect. Because I know that they have ambitions, right? They've been successful in USL. They've had good runs with, the U.S. Open Cup and playing against Chicago. But since the MLS transition, they haven't been that way. And I really wonder, right now, if I was a Cincinnati fan, I'd be like anything but last place to show some sort of improvement. Now, of course, that would be up in the air on if it's actually improvement. If Charlotte just comes in and tanks really bad, is it an improvement? If they finish 1 point above Charlotte, probably not. But if it's like a huge gap between them and Charlotte, because Charlotte was just awful, or if Charlotte actually overperforms and Cincinnati still finishes above them, I think Cincinnati fans would probably feel okay about that and say, okay, well, we got our new GM, we got our new manager, we did the best finish that we've had. Let's kind of continue with this and hopefully continue to grow under these. But they need to start bringing in some bigger players, I think, because I don't think, when I look above them, I like what Chicago's done by bringing in Shaqiri. We like what Montreal has done. DC United is kind of a question mark, I guess, but Miami, I even like what they've done a bit more than what Cincy's done on the field wise. So that makes me go Cincy in 13th. And I know you have them in the same spot. Did you want to say anything about them as you're wearing their shirt right now?
Yeah, representing, but no, I think you hit a lot of it over the head. They just don't have enough. I don't think anything's propelled them forward. I mean, getting a Ray Gaddis out of retirement kind of just shows you where this team is, I think, right? They're getting a good coach in Pat Noonan. I think they're taking the step in the right direction of finding a system that works for them. But now, unfortunately, I think it takes, this has got at least a 2-year project to at least get them up out of the cellar, just because I think you've got all these players that were, kind of formed into a system before Pat gets there. And these players are for that system. And now he's got to kind of clean house and get rid of a lot of these players that I think, prior to this year, I don't think performed exceptionally. So, and again, you got guys like Manunian. I think that, looking at that midfield, when we talked to Brian, he talked about the midfield just being a disaster. And I do think that this midfield is very susceptible to giving up goals. I think they're very vulnerable. I think that they're going to struggle tremendously. I don't think their center back pairing is very decent. I think this is a very tough center back pairing, just because I think when you break it down completely, if you look around the league, a lot of the Eastern Conference teams have much better center back pairings than I think these two are going to be able to provide. I like Matsarita. I like Brenner, and I think Brenner does take another step. How big of a step, I'm not sure, just because I think there were times last year where you do kind of see the struggles that he's had just getting used to the league. Luciano Acosta is going to be good in this. And, he's been successful in this league. He's going to be good in this team. I think he's going to be good in this system. If they go with like this diamond that I think Philadelphia has kind of put into Pat Noonan's brain, that's got to take. I mean, the diamond needs really good center mids, and they don't have really any. They have an attacking center mid, and that's about it. Alan Cruz is going to struggle. Kubo is going to struggle. I think this system just doesn't play well to this personnel, this team, and I think that's kind of where this team's going to go wrong. I think they're going to concede a lot of goals, not nearly as much as they had in previous years, but I think that they're still going to be on pace to just give up so many goals in the back that they just can't come back.
All right, let's continue up the trek here. We both have in 12th place. I swear, guys, this will change at some point. Hang in there. We both have in 12th place Inter Miami, who we previewed with Alex when she came on the show. It was I feel like at that time we still had some question marks on what was going on. I still think they've kind of shipped off a few players. They haven't really brought in too many. They were starting to bring in some when we previewed, though. But I don't expect much progress this year for Miami. I'm expecting more of okay, let's kind of get through that. We just had like 4 DPs and that we're moving on from some of these players and kind of hit the hard reset. This, I feel like, will be a year where we look at it and say, okay, there was some growth or some differences that they had to overcome this year. And then maybe the following year, in 2023 is a year where we say now they are primed they shed some of the contracts, they're ready to go. They've got their however many GMs they've had now and can kind of look ahead to what should have been, years ago at this point with how Miami entered the league. They really should have had more of a plan and better spending up front, but they've kind of gone through quite a few changes already in the executives. So that's why I have them sitting 12th. We'll see if that's where they actually end up. For a good chunk of the season this year, they were actually not out of the hunt. And you know what? 12th place may not be out of the hunt this year. I pressed the wrong team there. The wrong conference right there. But what I'm saying is I think that they'll have going forward, I think this might be a good reset year, and from there we can kind of go to something different for them.
It's so much change. I mean, that's got to be terrifying when you're watching this team. I mean, they're not even going to be a team you recognize if you watched them last year. Right out of the gate,
traded Lewis Morgan.
Yeah, traded Lewis Morgan. He's gone. If you look, the Federico Higuain gone. Julian Carranza with the Union. Rodolfo Pizarro down to Monterrey. Kelvin Leardom out to LA. Shawcross retired. I mean, this team has just been kind of a nightmare to watch. And then, now they're going to have such a roster turnover that I do think it's exciting because I do think you're going to find some pieces now that are going to be successful in this league. And I think that will help you build this club. But right now, I mean, if these bottom three, I think, are very interchangeable. I think it just depends on who's going to be the worst. I think Miami, this is more of an interesting project because I do think they brought in some nice pieces. I think Damian Lowe is a good signing. I thought Leonardo Campana was a pretty decent signing. We didn't even get to talk about DeAndre Yedlin. We had known that he was rumored to go to Miami. I think that's an interesting signing. I think that makes them better in that right back spot because they needed a right back. I don't know. I like their direction much better than I like, like a Cincinnati. Cincinnati's got the coach. Cincinnati doesn't have the players. Miami's got a good coach, I think, and I think they've got some good players that they're just going to have to figure out how do they play in this system, right? So I think that, looking at this team, Gene Mota, Ariel Lassiter, guys like that, I mean, they're all going to get in this system. They're all going to get playing time. You're going to get a lot of young kids playing time, and that's what we talked about with Alex. They need to play the youth. They need to play some of these younger kids to get them experience. I think there's a couple other teams out there that need to play the youth that we'll get to eventually. But again, this team, if they're not going to score goals, they need to learn not to concede as many too. I think that's a big thing with them, that they need to use their home field advantage this year and playing in the heat. I think they're going to get a couple of games here and there. And I do think that Gonzalo Higuain will help progress some of these guys forward, just because I do think he's going to take on a different role. I think he sees the problem that he was maybe the headache that has been caused by just how he kind of acted around the team last year. It'll be interesting to see, can he take that leadership role and kind of, I guess, get some of these guys to play in the system, accept the system and play as a team, because I think that's the biggest part with them. There was just so many disconnected pieces last year that it was just a disaster. So I think it'll be a good year for Inter Miami, just to kind of get their feet back underneath them and at least look like they're building something promising and not folding under these sanctions that have been passed down to them.
All right. I don't want to spend too much time on Miami, so let's move on to a team we both have 11th. We both have Chicago Fire 11th place with their brand new crest. That looks great. We're finally free from the reign of terror of the Crown Crest, or whatever they called it. That one was really bad. But we have them both in 11th. I think that we just kind of previewed them recently. Shaqiri, I think, is a big signing. I think that they are showing initiative, which I like. I think that they're kind of laying it all out here to try to have a better season. And I do think that they will, I mean, obviously, because I put them in 11th, finish above the teams below them that we just talked about, because I think that they've done enough and had enough turnover. They have a brand new coach. I really think that they're on the right trajectory, and that's something that we'll have to look forward to and really get to see them in another year at Soldier Field, hopefully trying to bring in more fans now that we're in kind of a more normal situation, COVID-wise. Who knows what happens outside of COVID. But, COVID-wise, we're in a more normal situation where, there isn't as many restrictions. Maybe more fans are feeling comfortable to go spend a summer night at Soldier Field. Obviously they did. They went to see the Bears in the winter. But, trying to get fans pushed there, and Shaqiri can help do that. He can. Chicago is another area that has tons and tons of like first generation, second generation, families that are not originating from here, or not like 10 generations in, where they might see Shaqiri and say, "Oh, that's very interesting. Let's go see Shaqiri." And there we go. So I hope that that's the case for them. I do hope he hits the ground running, because we know his history with other teams that have not worked out, which is why he's really ending up here. But you hope that this is where he can kind of turn it around and become a mainstay of Chicago. He's not that old. It's set up, I think, very well for them, and just hopefully Ezra Hendrickson can kind of get this team on the right track, because this is a historic franchise of MLS, entered in 98, have won an MLS Cup that year, hasn't really done a lot since then, but they've had big DPs in the past. But now they really got to start getting it going again. And that's my thoughts on Chicago.
We also didn't get to talk about Hero Torres. I mean, I think we were previewing them when that news broke that they were in talks to sign the young attacker from Atlas down in Liga MX. That's a huge signing too. I think going forward, he's a youth attacker that's going to be a goal scorer that's going to eventually grow into this league, and that's what Chicago needed. I mean, Chicago needed to hit a reset. They did. They shipped everybody out, just almost not quite as much as Inter Miami, but they did get rid of their whole skeleton of a team. I mean, if you look at Stojanovic left, Baric left, Calvo left. I mean, they blew it up in the right way. They bring in Shaqiri, right? And we've watched Shaqiri in Premier League. We've seen him, and one of our best friends watches Liverpool, and we got to experience the Shaqiri experience through Liverpool. He's a winner. I'll give him that. Everywhere he's been, he might not have played to the best of his abilities, and he's not, that star player on those teams. But I do think he knows how to win. I think he likes being part of a culture that does know how to win. He leads. He's a great leader, and he'll do anything you ask of him. He's one of those guys that's just kind of one of those spark plugs that you need in a roster that's really just going to push this team over the edge. Kasper Szabelko, I think that's a good signing. I think if they can find service into Kasper, he can be, what he was with Union, maybe the 8 to 10 to 12 goals a season. And I think that's what Chicago needs in behind Hero Torres. And then you got guys like Jesus, who's coming in to kind of replace Calvo. Calvo was a disaster. You bring in this guy. Rafael Jesus is, I think, going to be a phenomenal player in this league. I think he's got the abilities, the talent, the skill set, the physicality to play in this league. He comes from Köln. And I think that you look at a guy that's played in a Bundesliga side that I think is very talented. I think he's very talented. He's obviously garnered a lot of attention. But like you said, Jordan, I think I'm pretty high on their upside. I think over the next couple of years, this is a team that I think they're sitting here in these predictions in 10th. They might even surprise us and try to push towards the playoff. But I think over the next year or two, and they can make some more signings, they can bring in some more players. And then in behind that, I think they've got a really good coach. So I think that, Ezra pushing them forward with 1 year under his belt, signing some more guys underneath this system, I think this team could actually be one that would be dangerous and fun to watch in the years to come.
Okay, I do think we actually probably have to speed it up a bit. We've only gone through 4 teams in 30 minutes. Okay, so let's go. Number 10, I have Montreal. So I know that I'm doubting them, right? Which is probably not great for me. But I doubted them last night against Santos, and they went in there and they did it. They did the darn thing. But I don't know. I don't know if they have enough. But now I am kind of over. I submitted this before the games yesterday, so now of course I'm like, did I make a mistake? But I'm going to stand by it, and I'm going to say that they're going to finish 10th, which is again not far from probably a playoff spot. If it's like last year, it was up through spots 9 or 10 that were decision days. So that is something that is theoretical, that they might still have a good season, but not finish in the spot that they would want to. So that's what I'm kind of feeling for Montreal. Now you have a different team here, and you actually wrote it in different font for whatever reason. I'm not sure.
Yeah, the font really doesn't like me for DC United, and all of a sudden it had changed. There's a couple mistakes on this.
I like that font though. I do. I like the DC font.
Yeah, this font is going to be the permanent marker font, so I might stick with that one. I had to change it up, but then for some reason on your graphic it worked. You know what? I just threw it up there. I was going to see if you noticed. There's another thing that I made a mistake on, and you already know what that is, but we'll see if anybody else points it out.
Oh, something else you made a mistake on?
Yeah, come on. You know, I told you what it was. You wouldn't notice it unless you're like really one of their fans, I think.
Oh, no. I know that. Yes, yeah. I know that. Okay. I think we already mentioned it at the beginning of the show. Yeah.
The crew? Yeah.
Oh, no, that. Okay, yeah, that. Sorry.
I put the old crew crest on the prediction.
We're just boycotting the new one. All right? This is the better one. We're boycotting the new one.
It's true.
But yeah, so you have DC United. If you want to talk about them, because I actually have them 9th. So we can kind of skip me in the next one because you're going to kind of talk about them here.
Yeah, so DC United, I think they regress, obviously, with Paul Arriola leaving. I think that's a huge loss. That's a really good player and a guy that has been with this club for some time. And I think they're going to see him on the field, his skill set leave, but they're also, I think, going to leave. His leadership is going to leave and head to Dallas with him. I think that's a big thing. I think them losing Kevin Paredes, who I think was becoming one of the better backs in this league, I think that's a big step backward. And I'm not sure they've really added anything that is proven in this league to really help them kind of push them over the edge. Michael Estrada is a good signing. Key signing. He's going to help in the attack, but I'm not sure. Again, you've got to learn this league, and I think it takes a year or two. I think he's got to learn this league, come in and try to figure out how to score in MLS, how to provide chances for this attacking front. And again, this is one of those teams too, Jordan. I hate to doubt just because Hernan Losada has been fantastic in his time there. But again, I just think that the losses are too tremendous, especially with Paul Arriola, and then how good the other teams in the East have gotten. That's why I have them sit 10th.
It's kind of similar to why I have them 9th, which is, again, only 2 spots out of a playoff spot, which we've kind of talked about on the DC preview, might be what some people might say is not that great for DC after being in a playoff spot for most of last season. But again, there's just so many quality teams, and really anything can happen in the East. But I just really have a hard time seeing, with some of what they lost and not really bringing in, them being able to achieve what they did last year. But, I'd be willing for them to prove me wrong. Just get a new shirt sponsor is all I'll say there.
Can I add to your Montreal real quick? I like what you said.
You have them 7th, so we'll talk about that now. You have them 7th.
I'll talk about Georgie too. Georgie played really well. I like the way that he played. I really think that he's going to kind of throw his name as like a depth piece as Weston's going to be out. I think he makes the team. I'm not sure he starts over De La Torre, but I think that Georgie played extremely well against Santos, and I think that when you see that, you're like, man, this could be a really dangerous team. They go in. They add, they already have Romel Kyoto, right? They're going in and they're adding Kai Kamara. It's a team that I think is going to be fantastic in depth, and that's what they need in this league. Their defense is going to be really solid. I think Bresa is one of the top keepers that just isn't talked about enough. I really do like this team. They just absolutely stomped out Santos at home in front of that crowd, and that crowd was nuts for a very limited capacity. So looking forward to Montreal, and I'm sorry I doubted you. I'm sure you'll make the playoffs and prove us wrong.
All right, yeah, you have them in the playoffs.
I have them
so
there.
That's you're the believer.
Not again, Jordan.
Okay.
Not again.
So I have in 8th place here Red Bull New York. So do you. So we'll talk about them. You have Crew 9th. So actually, let's talk about, and I have Crew 7th. All right, let's just talk about Red Bull real quick. Red Bull, I have them 8th. You have them 8th. I think that they're just gonna miss out on it. You know, they have made the playoffs for so many straight years. Was it 13? But it really feels like with a resurgent Toronto and maybe a resurgent Crew, there might not be enough space for them to kind of break in here. And to be honest, their manager Struber not feeling so great about his squad at the game. And in one of the preseason games, I think it was against Seattle, they were getting shellacked like 6-1 on most of their starting 11 like being out there. So it is kind of worrying for the state of the New York Red Bulls, and it's not excusable. I will say this. It is not excusable that a team owned by a giant corporation like the Red Bulls in the biggest market in America, who own other clubs and spend money there no problem, are in this situation. At least they have a stadium, I guess, is what I would say.
Not like
their
the
neighbors
Cross River.
beat them to an MLS Cup without spending much more than them. What are you doing? And I'm going to end it there. I'm not going to make this a huge rant with them, but it is inexcusable that this is where they are right now. And I hope that the situation improves for the Red Bulls. What do you have to say?
I thought you were going to go totally Taylor Twellman on me. Like,
what are we doing?
I like the addition of Lewis Morgan, but that's about it. Like I like you said, I thought there could have been more there. I thought there could have been, one of those big splashes that they make one of these really high key signings. And Luquinhas might be a good player. He's a DP that's coming in. He's a striker. But again, we've learned this when guys come over, and he's 25 years old. I don't know how he adjusts to this league. If he doesn't adjust well, Jordan, this is a flop, and this is embarrassing, because I think you're losing guys that I think were very important to their success last year. They played really well defensively, but now you've missed Sean Davis, you miss Andrew Gutman, who both played well last year. I think that you're missing. You're trying to get Aaron Long back in. I think Aaron Long's gone by summer if he's playing well, just because I think he was on that trajectory to leave anyway. There's no way that he should still be on a roster here if he was healthy in MLS. And I think that the Red Bull, like you said, I do think that they play well defensively. But again, I think goal scoring is going to be kind of an issue for them this year. If Luquinhas doesn't score, if Lewis Morgan doesn't really add much in the attack and really provide anything going forward and creating chances, I'm afraid that this team is still going to fizzle out in the attack, no matter how well they play defensively and how well that press works.
All right. And so you had Crew in the 9th spot. I had them in 7th. I'm a little bit more of a believer that them being a little bit more fully healed and some of the moves they made are going to be able to help move them up the 2 spots. I also feel like Red Bull going down and maybe DC going down helps them get up those 2 spots. So that's how I'm kind of feeling about them. You're a little bit more down on them. What is your thoughts on Crew real quick?
Their health. I don't think they'll stay healthy. They have that track record, and that's not a good track record. An injury thing, they're one injury away from. I mean, this team, like, they just fell apart. Artur got hurt. You had Aiden Morris get hurt. I mean, it just seemed Jossie Zardes spend time on the sideline. If Zelarayan were to ever miss time, this team's almost non-existent to me. If they don't create through him, I don't see them really creating many of those chances. Jossie Zardes is not going to hold up play and create out of that 9. He just doesn't do that. And I don't think that's good for this team. I don't think when you look at their attacking front that it's as good as pretty much anybody above them that we have listed. And again, I am concerned about their health, concerned about their aging health. I'm concerned that they're not going to be able to score as much. I think, there's still kind of that pressure on them because we thought they were like this dynasty last year. I still think that still exists today. I don't think that's gone away. And I really am concerned about their back line and how does that kind of mesh? How do they get into, this season and play well? It's a big question mark for me. I'm still going to put a big question mark until they prove me wrong.
All right, prepare for them too. All right, so here we go. We have in 6th place, we each have the same team, Toronto FC. And again, just for reiteration, Logan has Montreal in 7th, which is why we're skipping that. We already talked about them. So in 6th, we have Toronto FC. I think both of us, I don't think we need to take much time with this, agree that with the signings they made, Insigne coming in the summer, having Bob Bradley kind of come in and ship out some of the players that are not his and kind of get control of this team, I'm assuming we're going to have a resurgence. They could do a lot better than 6 too, but I feel like I just have to cap them at 6 right now because it's a question mark on how it's going to work out for all of them right now. But I can't see them being that low, and I can't see them missing the playoffs again. I really think with a strong coach, strong manager, they're gonna get there. And with Insigne coming in the summer, that might be all they need. We've talked about it before. 2016, Nicholas Ladero comes into a Seattle team that's floundering. Ziggy Schmidt loses his job. Brian Smetzer comes in and they go win MLS Cup. Like, it really can happen that way. And that could be the push that gets them there. Did you have anything to add?
I'm pumped for their back line. You have Schaffelberg, who is a starlet coming up through the Canadian national team. You got Marshall Ruddy, who's going to be a name that we're all going to get to know as a U.S. men's national team fan. Mavinga and Salcedo. If Mavinga is healthy and plays well to what he's capable of doing, and then you add in Carlos Salcedo, that's a scary backline. I've seen it time and time again with T-Guys, watching them play over the last couple of months that I've been able to watch them. They've been exciting whenever he's been on the pitch. And then you look forward, I think Akinola coming back from that injury, can he step back into the reins? And if he gets going, Jordan, and then you add Insigne back into this mix, this team becomes really good. Don't forget, they have the former MVP in Pozuelo. So, again, a Bob Bradley coach team. It's really stupid if we doubt him that he's not going to pick this team up off the mat and at least have them in competitive soccer come decision day.
Shout out to Mavinga, who likes some of our stuff on Instagram.
Great guy.
All right. So 5th place, we both, again, we're very lock in step here. 5th place, we both have Orlando. I feel like some of the talent they've added has helped them, but I don't think it's helped them enough to really press to be in that top conversation. I do think it's a good start for the Wilf family, and I do think that they will hopefully continue their investment, that next year they add some more, and we're maybe seeing them challenge to be like, this team's so deep they could run the table, but I don't think they're quite there yet. So we both have them 5th. Anything to say about your Orlando City?
Goals are going to still be a concern for me. Even if Erkan Kara comes in and plays well and Pato plays well, I just still don't think they're going to have enough goals combined to really push at some of the top teams in this East. Because when we get to some of these guys, when we talk about their attacks, their Eastern Conference attacking players in the top 4 that we have listed are just far and away better than I think a lot of what Orlando can offer. Plus, you have Joao Moutinho, never healthy. That back line really scares me. If he's not going to stay healthy, then you lose probably the best player on that back line when he is healthy, playing well.
All right, we both have Atlanta in 4th here. I think a resurgent Joseph could help here. A full season under Pineda. Just feeling very confident about where they're at. They'd get a home playoff game, which was kind of the difference last year, right? They lost to NYCFC on a field that they're maybe not too right. That was at Yankee Stadium, wasn't it?
Yeah, it should have been.
I feel like that's right, but I feel like I have to double check
myself. I feel like
I have to double check myself real quick. But we had it was at Yankee Stadium. They won 2-0, like boom. And that, that's where the home playoff game can affect it. They can get a home playoff game in 4th. I think they can get there, and maybe then they'd be facing off against a team that they're more easily able to defeat at home in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, with the Atlanta faithful behind them. So both have them 4th. Anything to say there?
I think Joseph will be back in some capacity. I think you're going to see quite a bit of goals from Joseph. I think he's healthy. I think Gonzalo Pinedo is a fantastic coach, probably a dark horse coach of the year, manager of the year, maybe. I mean, I think they really do have the team in and around them that if he does play extremely well, Joseph, I'm talking about, this could turn into like a very, very dangerous team that could compete for the top of the East.
Third place, we both have the Revs. They had a historical season last year. Rarely does a team repeat that. So they're going to be losing Matt Turner. They're going to be losing. They've already lost Tejan Buchanan. Who knows who else they will lose over time here, but they've added Josie. We'll see how that goes. If he's going to be like a starter, or if he's just kind of coming in, for occasional starts and mostly bench, or what's going to happen there. But I do find it difficult for them to probably redo what they have done. So, the reason I don't have them second is because I do think the other two teams might have put up a better off season that's going to bump them up. You have them third as well. Did you want to say anything about them?
Replication is very difficult, like you said, and again,
especially in this league.
Yeah, and especially too because I really don't know how many pieces will be left after this transfer window coming up in the summer. Because I think their ultimate goal, Jordan, is to now win CCL. I do think that this team in the back of their minds do want to win the MLS Cup, and you can do that by just getting into the playoffs. I think that'll help them just kind of alleviate some of the pains when Matt Turner does leave, and that's a huge loss for them. I don't think people realize how big of a loss that is going to be for this team. And I do think if I had to guess, Books is going to be gone. That would be the one that I almost put in cement. That I think he does leave, and I think that that's going to be very hard to replace. And Josie Altidore, as much as I'm going to root for him this year, I don't know if his legs really have enough in them anymore to do, what an Adam Buksa does. But again, they're the Revs, and they did have a historic season last year. So I think that's why I'm so high still, is even if they lose quite a bit of this team coming up, they're still good.
And here's the thing. I mean, finishing third, I feel like almost have a better shot at winning MLS Cup. It really is tough to be like the best team and try to win it. So
absolutely,
second place is where we differ. I have the Philadelphia Union in second place. I don't think they have enough to take first and be the best team in the East. Logan feels otherwise here, but I think for me, I like what they've done. I like that they've added a striker, but now they lose Montero, who wanted out. Not so much he wanted out. Apparently, he just wanted more playing time. They want to play the kids. Can the kids deliver? This is going to be the big thing, right? Can they deliver? Usually, the Union kids have, but that's kind of my question mark. And if they don't, then you'll see regression because Montero was so vital to the team that when he wasn't there, they didn't really play all that well. So I am looking at, okay, how are they going to do? I still think they're going to be good, but I don't know if they'll be the best in the East. And again, I feel like, as you'll see later on, I think that might spell a better ending for them of the season than if they're first place. But I know you have them first in the East. What is it about that really sticks out for you?
I think honestly, I think Julian Carranza is going to be a shock to the world.
He's looked good in preseason.
Yeah, I was going to say I've seen the preseason where he's done well, and you know what it is? I think it's the Jim Curtin thing. I think it goes a lot into Jim. I think Jim can coach particular players and kind of push them to that next level that I don't think a lot of other people can get out of them. It'll be interesting to see how Montero does out in San Jose. I don't think he performs as well out of that system that Jim's been playing in. But I just think that this time, and Jordan, I think the biggest thing too, I think Paxton, Daniel Gazdag, I think has the abilities to be that starter, to be that good. But I am interested to see just how long that goes and the experiment of that goes when you've got some of these really young players kind of barking up the tree, getting ready to make that big step into.
We got McGlynn. They're going to want to try to get McGlynn on the field. They want to get Paxton on the field.
Yep.
We'll see how it goes. But yeah, Montero goes over to the Quakes. I don't know if we really talked about that on here or not. So hey, that's something Quakes probably needed as well. So it might be the kind of the thing where both parties kind of work out.
They got one of the best midfields too. Leon Flock, you've got El Brujo, and you got Bedoya.
Now,
That's about as solid as you get.
If you're watching the YouTube or the live stream, you will see already, you've seen who we have first. But if you're listening along, you might know what team we haven't talked about yet. That's NYCFC. I have them first. Logan has them second. This is not just because of an MLS Cup sort of high that I'm riding on them. I just do think that they've gotten better. I do think that they're kind of the fact that they kept Castellanos, I think, is huge right now. I think that right now they're playing out of their mind. They're doing so well with the Champions League. I think that might carry over. It might not be right at the start of the season. We usually see it kind of a cool off for some of these Champions League teams at the beginning of the season. But I think that they can do it. I think they can win the East. They've won the East multiple times in the past. I kind of feel like last year was kind of a down year for them. We all kind of, I think, thought they were going to be a little better than they were. And they hit that run in the playoffs and succeeded. So for me, it's not so much of a playoff high that I'm on, but more of a, all right, this is kind of return to form is what I have them in. And you have them at second. So I want to get your thoughts on them before we move on to the West.
Yeah, this might end up being just my biggest regret after seeing last night's game. And again, we'd locked these in, on Monday or Tuesday. So
yeah,
this is before I had seen them play yesterday. But man, and now they're adding Abear back. Like, I think people forget how good he is. It's like, okay, if Tati does leave, it's not like, I think the guy in behind him could actually have a similar performance as Tati did last season too. So that's just scary. And Magno, I mean, dude, he looked unbelievable last night, getting into really dangerous positions. In the box, I think he creates extremely well. He gets just a bunch of people open, running down the flank. I mean, it's just because he's so talented in what he does. And I think ends up being one of the top players in this league this year. So I don't know. I probably will regret this one tremendously by not putting them first, because I do think that they're a very dangerous team. But it'll be interesting just to see if Castellanos leaves, can they keep pace with the amount of goals that they'll score?
All right. So just to reiterate here, my East is NYCFC, Philadelphia, New England, Atlanta, Orlando, Toronto, and the Crew making the playoffs. Outside of that, I have Red Bulls, DC United, Montreal, Chicago, Miami, Cincy, with Charlotte winning. The Wooden Spoon, I'm going to say it. I think the Wooden Spoon's going to be in the East again. We didn't put that on here this time, but Logan's East is the Union, NYCFC, the Revs, Atlanta, Orlando, Toronto, Montreal making the playoffs, with Red Bull, Crew, DC United, Chicago, Miami, Cincy, and then Charlotte. You have Charlotte winning the Wooden Spoon?
I do, yeah.
And he has Charlotte winning the Wooden Spoon.
Yeah, so I think we'll make some merchandise for. I think they have wooden spoons and stuff on what is that we use, the website?
Canva.
There we go. Yeah. So be looking forward to
there's your secret. We use Canva. Okay. All right. Let's go to the West. So we didn't preview one of these teams. We're going to talk about that in a bit. We both have Houston in 14th place, which, look, they're on a brand new start too, but they have some question marks on their management. They have question marks on the new GM. And I feel like they haven't added too much. Now, they are in talks to add somebody, right? That they're trying to get. They just did an international trade roster spot with the Union today. But I don't know if it's enough to really get them out of it. And again, we locked this in before, or else I might have maybe moved Austin down a spot. But I guess we'll stick with it. I have Houston 14th. So do you. Just anything to add about Houston Dynamo?
Excited to see Sebastian Ferreira play, but I just don't think he's going to be anywhere close to enough. Again, new guy to the league, DP, young kid, 24, is going to have to learn the league. It takes time, and I'm not sure that it's going to be successful for this first season, especially with the guys in beside him like Corey Baird and Fafa Pico, like good players, but I'm not sure that this team. I mean, they're in danger. They'll be competitive with Charlotte, I think, with a wooden spoon. That's what I'm going to call.
All right. I have Austin 13th. So do you. Again, kind of lock in step here. Josh Wolf's second season, Austin's second season, I don't think they've done enough. I really don't. We've previewed them with Moon Tower, right? And I don't know if they've done enough to really make any changes to their fate. Um, they are, I think, going to be an interesting watch because look how fast they were Wolf out. If they do really get to the point of finishing the season at 13th, Wolf probably is out, right? Like that you would think at that point. You don't want a Cincinnati situation where they come into the league and finish 3 years at last place. So you think that they would want, if it happens again this year, he's probably gone. What are your thoughts on Austin?
I think it'll be Wolf out, and I think part of it's going to be because I just really am not convinced that even though the signings that they made in Valencia and Gabrielson, I don't think you've made enough in the back to really change just how bad they could be. I don't know. Their attack was awful until Jerussi comes. So Cecilia Dominguez started to play well. I think defensively they'll struggle. I don't think Stuber has that good of a year again. So I think their defense actually is going to get a little bit more dinged up. I think that the attack will be okay, but I'm going to call it here. I'm going to say they're one of the worst defenses. Just because I think they were deserving of that last year. They actually played, I think, overperformed what they were expected to do. I do think that they will struggle defensively. I'm going to call it they're going to have some meltdowns defensively, and that's what's ultimately going to cause Wolf his job.
All right. Now this is where we differ. I have Vancouver 12th. You have Dallas 12th. So let's just talk both of those teams right now. Vancouver 12th, I think, again, they just haven't done enough for me. I think their kit is outstanding, though. But I do worry about how they're going to do. They, made the playoffs last season. It was great, but you can't usually sit still in those situations. The players they have added did not really impress me much. But I could be wrong, right? So who knows? We joked about it on the preview that now they're going to be the Cascadia team that makes the final. But I don't know. I kind of worry about Vancouver. Let's get your thoughts on Vancouver, who you have 10th.
Yeah. I think they're good enough to kind of remain. I don't know. Again, they should have gone and added. There's one of those teams that should have gone and added more, and it's kind of disappointing that they didn't go and add more. I thought, based off of the season that they had last year, I thought they made really good strides in making this team a lot better, a lot more competitive. Adding Tristan Blackman is nice, but I'm not sure that's going to be enough to really do much. Ryan Gold's really good. Brian White's really good, but again, if there's any kind of like regression or maybe they don't play as well as they did last year, then I don't think this team is anywhere close to being as good. So that's kind of concerning as well. If this team is looking for complacency, I think they found it.
All right, and you have Dallas 12th. I have Dallas 10th. I'm a little bit more higher on them. I do think that they can kind of have a good season. They've bringing in Paul Arriola. They lost Pepe, though, but Ferreira's been doing well for them. Maybe this can be a decent season where they can kind of climb a few spots. You have them 12th. Give me your thoughts on Dallas real quick.
I'm not convinced with the Jesus Ferreira like everybody else is, and that's my biggest concern with them.
I wouldn't say I'm convinced. I think he's just going to be a good MLS player. I think that's all they really need.
Yeah, but today I was listening. I think it was Extra Time actually was saying how good he is and he could be the next. I think they're paying DP money for him, and like he's going to be incredible in this league. And like, but I still don't see that. Like, and they said that he's got a good chance to be the number 9 for Greg. I don't understand. I must not be watching the same Jesus Ferreira as everybody else is. I don't know. I'm not as high on Jesus. I want him to do well. I always want people to do well, but I just don't see the hype around him. Alan Velasco is going to be really cool to watch. But again, their midfield, Paxton Pomical, he just, I don't think he can play 34 matches or whatever it is. So again, it'll be interesting to see. Their defense, I don't think is going to be as good either. So that's why I have them as low as I do. I just don't think the midfield's very good, and that'll really leak into their defense.
Okay. So we both have the Quakes 11th. They bring in Montero. They've brought in, I think, everything but a right back, which is what they need. They signed Cade Cowell to a longer deal, right? So I think 11th is pretty accurate. I don't think that they're going to be great, and in fact, Almeida really wants out. It sounds like he's another one complaining, and I think they face Red Bulls first, so it'd be both managers who are complaining, going up against each other, which will be interesting. But 11th place is kind of where we both have them. I don't have too much to add here. They're not going to be as fun to watch, I think, now that Wando's gone. So what are your thoughts here on San Jose?
I'm looking at their depth chart. Like, why are they collecting so many players that play the same position? Like Jeremy Abobasi and Cade Cal are pretty much all in one of the same person. And then I'm looking, and I like Shofis isn't even in this depth chart. Like, it's Montero, Jackson Ewell, and Judson. Well, how does that make sense? I don't get it. They're just collecting players, I guess, to play the same position and hoping that works. I think Almeida is just going to leave and take Shofis with him. I have no idea.
I wouldn't bet against it.
I wouldn't either.
I think,
they brought him there.
To be honest, with Almeida always saying this every year, if I was San Jose, I'd just be done with him. And I know when we talked to Fabian, he was saying how big of a deal Almeida is, but look, no one's bigger than the club, right? That's what I would say. Because Almeida is a big deal somewhere else, then go let him be a big deal somewhere else is kind of what I would tell him, because we can't keep having you in the news saying how much it sucks here, how much you want to leave here, when's the next job you're going to get. We don't want that. And he hasn't really turned out the results. He hasn't. So there's no point in holding him anymore. I think this will be his last year there, and I don't know if he makes it through the whole year.
They added Jan Grey Goose, is also a defensive mid. What? Huh? And then they added Calvo, which was a disaster with Chicago.
Yeah, it's not a well-built team.
No, it's just a bunch of like Band-Aids. It's like,
yeah, well, I think
there.
The GM kind of came in, I think, a little later than, I think he came in, well, sometime late last season, but still, you're kind of left with whatever you're left with, I guess, when you take over a team like this. So I had Dallas 10th. Logan had Vancouver 10th. We talked about Vancouver. Let's go 9th. This is the team we forgot to preview. I'm so sorry, Real Salt Lake fans. I'm actually going to a Salt Lake game this year, so I feel really bad that I missed this. We were just so happy that the things ended up being even of 4 teams each that we just threw them to the side, I guess. But Real Salt Lake, we have them 9th. I don't think we feel like they've added enough. I think we think some of the other teams have improved a bit more where it's going to knock them out of the playoffs. I know they had a really great run in the playoffs, but I just don't know if they're able to get there again that way because, really they kind of lucked out to even get in there because it was really like LA could have grabbed the spot, did not grab the spot, and it led RSL to get in there, and then they made a good run, which you can always do in MLS, but it doesn't mean that the team is good. But yeah, I mean, that sums up my thoughts on RSL, so I do apologize that we skipped the preview, but what do you say, Logan?
Albert Rusnak headed to Seattle. That's a huge loss. That's their best player.
Yep.
Damir Kreilach is going to have to carry this team and carry it really far. Anderson Julio also left. So he could come back, but it doesn't seem likely. And I thought he was one of the more impressive players last year when he did get the chance to play. They had Sergio Cordova. He arrives on loan from Augsburg, and he's a forward that didn't really get much playing time. So again, like you said, Jordan, the one acquisition that they thought maybe could push them up over, that's it. Like that's all you've got for a team that really just did kind of back into the playoffs. If LA Galaxy had played close to what they had been playing previously in the year, I think that they easily snagged that spot, but they went on such a really a spiral that they just kind of spiral out of control in RSL. Like you said, if you get in the playoffs, it's just like baseball. I mean, I feel like this is a sport very similar where you can just go on a run just based off of the pure form that you're in.
Yeah, that's the magic of the playoffs, right? That's why
It's
we
great.
have playoffs.
Yeah.
All right. Let's take a look at 8th place. I have the Rapids missing the playoffs. I think that they've kind of lost some of their, they've lost some players, and, the penalty shootout did not make me feel any better about their prospects in the, well, definitely didn't make me feel better about their prospects in the Champions League and knocked them out. But I mean, didn't make me feel any better about their prospects for MLS. And I do think that they'll just miss the playoffs. I think with the, Nashville is coming into this. I think LAFC can be better. I think Galaxy can be better. That I worry about the Rapids because, while they had really good, points per game the last 2 seasons, I think you can't always rely on that because there's going to be a time where you actually have to spend and put some money into the team. And it doesn't seem like Kroenke is very interested in putting too much money into this team. He's too busy worried about Arsenal and the Rams over here than he is about Colorado Rapids. So I'm not so sure that that'll be how it goes for them. So what are your thoughts here on Rapids, who you have 7th and I have 8th?
Yeah, so I think they can defend really well, and I think that'll be kind of a plus for them. I thought Mark Anthony Kaye looked really good. When you have Jack Price, that's always going to be good. And then I think Rubio and Lewis figure it out enough to push them into the playoffs because their defense is going to be that good. I thought Estevez has looked one of the best backs or wing backs that this league might have. I thought that he's been really impressive. Keaton Rosenberry has been really good in his time with the Rapids. It'll be interesting how they do replace Austin Trusty, just because I do think that he has played solid, and I think I think they'll look more to the youth to try to figure out how they're going to replace that. And then Yarborough, I think, is slept on as a keeper. I think he's a really good keeper as well. Played really well in the penalty, although that might have been more of just guys not being able to put the ball in the net. But no. I just like the way that they play. It's tough to play in Colorado, so I think that too is just a huge advantage whenever you're talking about them playing at Dick's Sporting Goods Park. It's a tough place to go in and try to win, and I think the Rapids playing defensively and just kind of mucking things up in the midfield is ultimately what's going to get them to the playoffs. Yeah, that's all I've got for the Rapids.
All right, now I have Galaxy 7th. You have them 8th. You have them just missing the playoffs. I have them just making it. We just talked about this last episode, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to spend too much time on it. I just think that they have, I think that eventually they're just going to get back in. Did you have anything you want to say quickly? I know we just talked about it last time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not convinced Chicharito's going to be healthy. I think those days are long gone that he plays the whole season. And their defense is just going to give up a ton of goals. They're going to give up the record amount of goals. I just think they're just so bad.
So?
Oh, God, yeah, they're awful. Defensively, I just don't see where they have gotten any better, and they're really not going to have much of a midfield to kind of protect them this year. I just don't see where they get her. And then again, I love what somebody else said. When has it ever been the case that Costa has been a phenom in any of the leagues that he's ever been? He hasn't. So I'm not convinced of this team. I don't think Chicharito's going to be healthy. They're going to lose a lot with the leadership and Sebastian Lachat. I just don't think this team is going to be that good. Sorry.
What a downer.
Fans. I know. Come at me when they finish first.
You know what they'll be number 1 in, though?
Your heart.
In the kits. I really love the white kit, and I really love the black and green. So
people hate their kit. I'm like, what is wrong with you people?
Yeah, because they don't like just plain white. But I was talking about this with Jack, right? We're Jack from the Final Third show. He says it's missing the iconic sash, and it's funny that some people think of it like that because I guess they've had it for so long now. But the LA Galaxy jersey I have has no sash, and it's kind of like the classic jersey I think of when I think of Landon Donovan. It's like the one I think of when I think of Beckham. It is like they just had a plain white kit with, the blue and the yellow. Like it's classic. You know, I know some people are kind of tired of some of the plain kits, but you look at sometimes you just have the classic kit, like a Manchester United red kit or a New York Yankees pinstripes. As much as I don't like the Yankees, it's a classic thing that if that was to ever change, people would be upset. So it's iconic in its own way. Now 6, we both have Minnesota. We previewed this with Jack and AJ, as we just mentioned them from the Final Third show. I think it's just at the time where I'm not really bought into Minnesota. I put them as MLS Cup winners last year, and I regretted that almost immediately when they went 0-4. So I learned from that mistake. So that means they're going to go 4-0 here at the beginning of the season. But that'd be really bad because they faced the Union first. But yeah, that I don't have much to say about Minnesota. I just think that I think Heath is wearing out his welcome. I think they haven't done too much for bringing in the stuff, so I can't see them doing much better. But I do still think they're a playoff team.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think that if you look at a team across the board that like stayed about even, this is like the team I think that is just identified as you're just going to be right about where you were last year, just because they have times where they just go into droughts where they can't score. Hunu can't score. They did bring in Luis Amarilla. I think people think he's going to be the answer. I'm not so convinced. They really tend to have a hard time finding good strikers. So I don't know. They don't have a good track record, and I don't think it's going to get any better with this one either. So that's why I have them just kind of even keel, just because I think they're good enough to make the playoffs.
All right. Now I have Portland 5th. You have LAFC 5th. This might be something I regret. I think that Portland, while they made the final, is not as good. They've lost some talent. They're going to lose Valeri, who was really like, talk about the heartbeat of the team. Like, I know he didn't play a lot near the end, but I mean, like I feel like the emotional heartbeat of the team, right? Like all the fans loved them. They're able to keep Blanco. But I just kind of worry about that. They have a lot of controversy going on. Don't know how that's going to affect them. So I have them 5th. You have LAFC 5th, who I think I have 3rd. I just kind of feel a little down on this now that we have the article when Carlos Vela spoke to the team, spoke to the press today, and said his contract only runs through June. And he hasn't, I guess, really heard anything. So he's just going to operate as normal right now. If they lose Carlos Vela for June onward, I'm not so sure this is going to be a good team. And we really have to worry about, Trundolo first time manager. I might regret putting them 3rd, but I am going to stick with it because we already have the graphic. But, I think that is a little worrying. And I know the fans are 3252 kind of being a little toxic in the sense of telling Trundolo, hey, we expect MLS Cup, nothing less. For a first-year manager who's coming in and you might lose Carlos Vela, that might be out of his control. I don't know. That's a little worrying for me. And that means I think the pressure is going to be on Trundolo really early with the way the fans have been. Especially Trundolo agreed to that and said, yeah, I understand that's what every club wants. I understand that's what you want. I can kind of see them being like, well, you're not doing it. So a little worried about them, but you have them 5th. Is that kind of sum up your thoughts on LA?
Yeah, the Trundolo experiment, and then also Carlos Vela. One, his health was a lot to do with that too, just because he's not ever really healthy anymore. And now that all this has come out, and just the way that, like that 3252, like when that guy asked that question, it was like Steve was almost caught off guard, and it was kind of shocking just to kind of see him kind of awkwardly sidestep the comment, kind of like, But I get it. Like, you can't win MLS Cup every year. Otherwise, we'd have a team that would win it every year, and you'd have no questions. That's not going to be the case. And LAFC, I think, struggle from that. And I think the guy said it perfectly. You struggle from that success right off the bat, kind of thing. You're going to end up like an Atlanta United, frustrated, absolutely, devastated when your team wins, but probably one of the more obnoxious fan bases, just because I think you expect so much of your team. You got to have down years. Like, I know as an Orlando fan, I have to have a down year. It's just going to be that way. I think this year they won't be as good just because I think there's a lot of change. And you got to expect that. But I think with LAFC, they're so used to success, and I get it. You want your team to be successful, but I'm just not sure this team can put up with that. And if this experiment fails, I could see this experiment failing, and it takes 2 years to kind of clean up the mess.
All right. I have. Geez, where are we even at right now? Okay, you have Portland 4th. I had them 5th. We kind of talked about them already. Nashville 4th for me. You have Nashville 2nd. So let's talk about them real quick. I think that they are moving over to the West. It's going to be more difficult. We talked about it last week or last episode, however long ago it was, that their points would have put them 5th in the West. And I do think since they'll be facing tougher competition, that's probably going to be more accurate. They're probably going to be 5th or 4th in the West. And I have them 4th. What did I have them? 4th. You have them a little higher. You're buying in a little bit more. I think it's going to be tough for them to come in and immediately succeed in the West. What are your thoughts?
I just like their MLS experience and their depth. I mean, Sean Davis added into what's going to be Annabelle Godoy, Dax McCarty, Randall Leal, Hani Mukhtar, CJ Sapong, if he could play as well as he did last year. I think that's the biggest question mark. If he can't play that well, then I've highly I don't even know what I'm trying to say. I ranked them too high is what I was going with. But again, I think that their defense is still going to be one of the best in the league. Another thing you got to think about too is people still have to travel to Nashville as well. So it's not just Nashville having to travel extensively and in long periods of time and traveling back in time, zones. The Western teams are going to also have to come to Nashville where they're very difficult to beat. So I think that's kind of where I put them. And I do think they're going to make a concerted effort to go out and try to find another goal scorer that I think could push them to be one of the best teams in this league.
All right. Now I have, we go up to 2nd, and your 3rd place pick is Sporting Kansas City, my 2nd place. Now, we've seen a lot of people really down on Sporting KC that have them like almost the worst in the West or missing the playoffs. We talked about it an episode or two ago. They didn't lose that many players, and they brought in some good players. So I think we can kind of sum it up with we think they'll be just fine. You have anything to add to that?
No, I love their wingers. They might be, if they can play like they did last year, they're two of the best wing duos that we have in this league between Daniel Shalhoub and Johnny Russell. Plus, I just love Johnny Russell altogether. I just love everything about the man. So, big Sporting fan. So I like to watch them play. Kyrie Shelton will be fun to watch too. I think he could surprise some people as a striker.
All right. Now we both have the Sounders in 1st place in the West. I don't know. I just feel pretty good about them. They're adding in Rusnak, and while it hasn't been great in the Champions League, we'll see that they play in 2 hours. So for people that are live, that's in 2 hours. People that are listening afterwards, you already know if they moved on or not. But this is, it's preseason still, so I do think that they will do better. They may not start off the season hot, but I do think that they'll win the West. I think they won't fall apart like last year where the Rapids were able to steal that 1st place from them in Sporting Kansas City and even LA Galaxy, who were in the hunt for that most of the season. You have anything to add to the scary depth of the Sounders?
Yeah, I think that they won't be like the Crew. I mean, they just don't have that look to them because of the experience that they have. When you look at it, Raul Ruiz-Diaz, one of the best 9s in this league. Jordan Morris arguably was an MVP candidate had he not got hurt last year. Nico Ladero is going to get back to what he can probably be an MVP candidate. Albert Rusnak might also be an MVP candidate. I mean, Joao Paulo about one MVP. I mean, this team is unbelievable. And Nuhu is one of the best defenders in this league. Roldans are, 2 of the best pairings there on that right side. This team is unbelievable. And then their depth off the bench is just remarkable. So I just don't see where this could even if they lost a player, maybe even 2, this team would still be a pretty dominant force in the West.
All right, let's go ahead and wow, we're going way over. So let's we're not going to go in depth with what we're picking for these other ones. We have Golden Boot. If you want to go ahead and share your Golden Boot pick.
Yeah. Chicho. Arango, I think I don't know. I just with Vela, and this might actually look really good now because Vela leaves, and that's going to open up some goals here for Chicho. I don't know. I really like the way that he played last year. A guy that comes in late and can score that many goals is just it's phenomenal. And I do think that with LAFC playing with Steve Cherundolo, I think they're going to play more up tempo. I think they're going to get a lot of shots off. I do think that this is easily one of the safe choices for Golden Boot, just because of the huge success that he had in the little sample size last year.
I'm gonna go with Raul Ruidiaz. I think that this is not a safe pick. I mean, he usually finishes up pretty near the top, but just kind of going with if I have them winning the West, I'm picking Ruidiaz as probably scoring the most goals. Now, we both picked the same MVP, and I would say this probably doesn't make any sense with where we have this team placed, but you can have a good season and not be the best team in the league, and we both have Hani Mukhtar as MVP. Rightfully so.
Here's my argument, though. None of these Seattle players are going to win MVP because there's too many of them.
Yeah,
so
that
one
was kind of my thought with it is that, you can have a really good team, but no standout player that is putting up the stats because it's all being spread around. While I think Hani Mukhtar is the best player on Nashville and is going to prove that again here.
And probably one of the only huge attacking players that team has too. Without, a guy that can be the goal scorer at top, he's got to do a lot of that himself. So I don't know. That's why I picked him. And plus, you and I really thought he got raped last year. So you and I we've tried to give him the trophy about 100 times without actually giving him the trophy.
Yeah, he is our MVP for both years. So I'm going to go to not manager of the year yet because I feel like some of these manager of the years is going to spoil our picks here. So let's go ahead. Open Cup, U.S. Open Cup. I have Nashville. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Now, you can't really predict the Open Cup. It's all about draws and, who gets who. But I'm going to go with Nashville. I think it'd be fun to kind of see that town be able to celebrate a trophy like that. And you have NYCFC picking up another trophy this season after their MLS Cup win last year. Again, we don't need to go into that. We don't even know how that would work with the Open Cup, so we'll just kind of keep just a fun prediction. Now, Supporter Shield. People know what teams we picked for first place already. I picked NYCFC in the East, Seattle in the West. You've picked Seattle in the West, Philly in the East. Logan, which one is winning the Supporter Shield for you?
I'm going to guess Nashville. No, Philadelphia. I don't know. I love what Jim Curtin does. And I might be just a closeted Philadelphia fan at this point.
It seems that way.
Yeah, I've watched, like I always say, I've watched more of their games than I have even my own team in Orlando. Just because, like, the way that the schedule fell last year, there were some Orlando games that I couldn't catch, but I could catch the Philly games. And I watched CCL, and I watched all the Philly games. So that helped me tremendously. But it does seem like it. But no, I just think I love what Philadelphia does. I think that the young kids are going to make a huge impact this year, and I'm looking forward to watching your team play.
I would love a second supporter, but I have Seattle. If I have Ruidiaz winning the Golden Boot and Seattle being the best team in the West, I feel like it just makes sense for me to have Seattle winning Supporter Shield. I think NYC. I just think the West is stronger, which you think would mean maybe they're not going to have the like Revs were able to kind of sweep on some of these lower East teams, but maybe that's true. Maybe that's why the Union will win the Supporter Shield. But yeah, I'm going to go with Seattle. Now we're kind of reversed here.
Yeah,
MLS Cup, you have the Seattle Sounders. MLS Cup, I have the Philadelphia Union. This is the year. MLS Cup, baby. Curtain's wide open. Yeah. The curtain is wide open. I'm gonna wear I'm gonna wear that shirt the day that they win MLS Cup. I'll tell you that much. If they're in the MLS Cup final, I'm wearing my shirt, and I'm wearing my jersey over top of it, I think. But I'm gonna wear my shirt. Let's just appreciate the graphics Logan made. This looks really great. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
And the reason why I said that might spoil it, Logan's manager of the year, Supporter Shield winner,
Jimmy.
Philadelphia Union, Jim Curtin.
Yeah, I'm just going to buy it.
Curtain is open.
Yeah, I think I'm going to just buy a Union kit when I get off here today on eBay, just to solidify my closeted Philadelphia fandom.
I dare you to. Which one would you get?
I need the center stripe, right? I need the one that you have. Like, I need the Bembo, and I need the that sounds really wrong, but right down the stripe. Yeah, hey, yeah, that one. The one that I've seen you wear 100
Let's go.
times. So
we want a center stripe. I do like the new kit, though. I think I will get that one at some point.
I really want the Lightning one, too, the light blue one. Yes, but I'm waiting for that one to go on sale.
I have a Paxton. No, I have a Brendan Aronson one of that. Okay, my manager of the year. So Logan put both of my picks on here, but I was kind of like debating which one I was going to lock in here. I have Smetzer or Bradley, and I think Bob Bradley's going to do a really good job for Toronto. But here's the thing. I don't know if finishing 6th is going to be considered that great. Now, of course, going from 13th to 6th would be pretty darn good for Toronto. So I do think it's going to be Brian Smetzer. Ultimately, that's going to win that manager of the year. And I think actually we should start moving to a baseball method here and have MVPs for both conferences and coach of the year for both conferences. I really do think we should probably do that. If you have Eastern Conference winners and Western Conference winners, then you should have, I think, separate MVPs and stuff. I think every league that kind of splits it like that should actually give out multiple of those. Yeah. Just give more stuff to the players. I mean, it just, you know why? Because it helps the players negotiate, gives them maybe some prize money. I think it'd be nice for the players to be able to do that too. All right, I think that's everything. Right?
Everything.
I know you had all these other things made up. We're not going through that.
No, I was just going to keep those on there. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just to, if we wanted to talk about Austin or one of the other teams.
Boom. There you go.
Boom, 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 boom. It's fun.
Okay. Yeah. So that is our prediction show. So.
Yay.
And again, Wooden Spoon, we have the Charlotte FC for the crown. It's going to actually be for the spoon. Here's what their hashtag is going to be. Thank you, Logan, for that.
Sorry.
Okay, so we're going to play our favorite night driving song here. But we're going to wrap it up.
I'm excited, Jordan.
The season starts very soon. Very soon. Starts Saturday. So the time that most people are listening to this is probably Friday. And what we have to look forward to here on the 26th is Philadelphia Union kicking it off at 1 o'clock against Minnesota. Columbus Crew facing off against Vancouver at 3:30. LAFC versus Colorado at 3:30. That's on Twitter or TUDN Univision. 5:30, Dallas versus Toronto. Austin versus Cincy at 6. DC versus Charlotte at 6. Miami and Chicago at 6 o'clock. San Jose, New York at 6. And Portland, New England at 7:30 on Fox. Then on Sunday, we have Orlando at 1 o'clock versus Montreal. Atlanta versus SKC on FS1 at 3. At 5 o'clock, LA Galaxy versus NYCFC. 7 o'clock, Houston versus Salt Lake. And at 8 o'clock, Seattle versus Nashville. I should be home in time for that one, and I'm going to be very excited about that one. But you know what? I think Saturday has the better games. So I actually may not miss much on Sunday. Don't forget, right now, what's going on is Cruz Azul and Forge FC. Cruz Azul lead 2-1 at the moment that we're listening, that we're seeing it 28 minutes in. And Cruz Azul already led 1-0 on aggregate. So that should be a 3-1 aggregate. 10:45 Eastern time on FS2 is Seattle versus Motagua. Did I say that right? Motagua,
I think, yeah.
Which is 0-0 on aggregate, and it's going to be at Lumen Field, so hopefully the home advantage works for Seattle. Did not work for the Rapids yesterday. Well, it worked mostly for the Rapids until a goal was caught off, and then they went penalties. If you want to send us any sort of your predictions or make fun of our predictions, Twitter at Stateside Show, Instagram at Stateside Show, Facebook.com/Stateside Show, or email us statesideshow@gmail.com. Keep an eye out for the giveaway for this beautiful magnet. We are fooked. So there you go. Anything to add, Logan, before we head out?
The curtain is closed on my graphics that I made.
Everybody, if you listened to the episode, go watch it just so Logan's graphics are seen. They're beautiful.
Thanks, Jordan. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome. And you know what? You can probably put those up on Twitter and stuff too while we're
definitely.
Maybe Saturday before the games kick off, we share this stuff on Twitter too. I think that might be good.
Yeah, I am ready for people to yell at me, kicking and screaming for the fact that we once again put Montreal bottom playoff out of the playoffs. So looking forward to it.
Oh well. Look, it's really hard to nail MLS predictions. So, if anybody followed us last year, we had Crew top of the East. So let's not die. I had Minnesota winning MLS Cup. I had LAFC winning Supporter Shield. None of that was even close. So let's not, So I had both of the top East and top West teams didn't even make the playoffs. But for me, they were top in my heart, I guess. So, yeah, if you want to make fun of our predictions, go ahead. Try not to have any name calling. But we will see you all next time, and we'll be talking games, live games that had happened, breaking those down, talking about and overreacting on the first week's results. So thanks everybody for watching or listening, and have a great rest of your week, and enjoy these games.